Hello and welcome to The Hearing, our music review show here on the channel. I'm John.
And I'm Scotto.
And without any further ado, I was going to say before, but there's nothing to talk about before. Without any further ado, on to this week's album, which is from 2001, Comfort Eagle by Cake. We decided to do this one basically to give ourselves an easy week after last week.
And I needed it this week, actually.
Things got a little interesting last week, and you've apparently had an interesting week this week. So yeah, I did too. So yeah, we needed a nice, easy week. Couple of things we'd enjoy. Trusted Jen's judgment on the movie. That turned out well, and we're both big Cake fans. So anyway, Cake is an American alternative rock band from Sacramento, California. Formed in 1991, their name, rather than referring to the food, is meant to be, quote, like when something insidiously becomes a part of your life. We mean it more as something that cakes onto your shoe and is just sort of there until you get rid of it, unquote. Cake incorporates a wide range of genres into its music, including country music, mariachi, new wave, college rock, jazz, funk, Iranian folk music, Brazilian music, and hip-hop. I'd love to know where the Iranian folk music comes in.
I'm thinking Comfort Eagle kind of had that, in that rhythm.
Okay, perhaps, yeah. I'd have to listen to some Iranian folk music. I might look some up. Vocalist John McCrae cites Hank Williams, Tom Zay, the Golden Gate Quartet, and Sly and the Family Stone as particular influences. The band is most often noted for three things: the prominence of McCrae of Vince DiFiore's trumpet lines, McCrae's ironic, sarcastic lyrics, and his droll, deadpan, monotone vocals. I wouldn't say monotone, but yeah, droll and deadpan, sure. Speaking of DiFiore's trumpet work, it originated with McCrae's desire for a second melodic instrument to go along with the song he'd written. He said, quote, a lead guitar playing those lines would have been really hokey. I like it when it's a contrapuntal thing, where the guitar is doing one melody, the vocal is doing another melody, and the trumpet plays this third melody. If the music can be transparent enough, you could hear all three lines at the same time, unquote. And they do that very often.
A lot of this album feels very stripped down, though, honestly. Like, a lot of this album is just pure bass.
Yeah, I know, obviously. That's one of the reasons it's my favorite. Comfort Eagle is Cake's fourth studio album. It was released on July 24th, 2001 on Columbia Records, their first with the company. And it was produced by the band, and it features John McCrae on vocals, acoustic and electric guitars, keyboards, bass, drum programming, and percussion. We were discussing this last week. He's kind of become the Danny Elfman or Ian Anderson of the band.
Yeah.
He writes everything, the rest of the band plays it. Speaking, the writing credits are the same. He wrote everything except for two songs, which he co-wrote with other people outside of the band. Continuing with the credits, Vince DiFiore on trumpets, keyboards, and backing vocals. Zan McCurdy on electric guitars, percussion, and backing vocals. Gabriel Nelson on bass guitar, keyboards, and backing vocals. Shout out to Gabriel Nelson. He is amazing. A new favorite bassist of mine. Todd Roper on drums, percussion, Moog synthesizer, and backing vocals. And Tim Pope, keyboards and electric guitar on Opera Singer, Short Skirt, Long Jacket, and Arco Arena. Now onto the tracks. Reminder, I don't edit any songs into the episodes for copyright reasons, but down in the description, if you're watching this on YouTube, or on our blog, johnandscotto.com, if you're listening to the audio version, you'll find links to the album on Spotify and YouTube, so you can listen along. On to track one, Opera Singer. And I should have mentioned this at the beginning, just another note about the band in general. They're a rare band that sounds like nobody else.
Yeah.
There is no other Cake, and it's hard to know. You often point out other artists that bands sound like. They don't sound like anyone else.
Right. There's nobody else. I mean, and
an artist like this comes along maybe once or twice a decade.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sound like anybody else. Is just doing something completely new. And speaking of new, in this case, it's the great mix of drum machine and real drums. Because the drums start with an obvious drum machine.
Yeah.
And then it cuts into this kind of funky rhythm with real drums and this kind of what crybaby synth, that wah-wah synth, that really it doesn't make sense in a song about an opera singer.
Right. This is a lot funkier, I think, even for Cake standards. This song, and then the vocals. saying McRae is monotone is really missing the point of McRae's vocals. A lot of this
It's not monotone. He sings. He's a great singer. It's
he it's
just
very it's emoting actually.
yes.
There's a great, especially in this song, there's a very great sadness
If
in
Lou
a lot
Reed
of his vocals.
if Lou Reed could have actually sung, he would have sounded like John McCrae.
Well, Lou Reed could sing and did sing in some songs when he wanted to.
He kind of spoke in key, which McCrae does at times.
He
McCrae.
chose to talk that way.
Oh, okay, okay.
If you listen to stuff like A Perfect Day, that one ballad,
That's true.
that's
He does
him
sing
just,
that.
I
Yeah,
mean, he chose, and I think he sung that song just to show, oh
he
yeah,
could
I
sing
could do this, but I choose to
to
just
speak.
kind of speak
Uh-huh. But
instead. But
McCrae
McRae,
is very much in the Lou Reed vein.
yeah, and it's a lot of his vocals are just about loneliness and
Hmm.
sadness, and you get this weird vibe, of course, about this opera
Yeah,
singer.
and the song is literally about an opera singer.
Yeah, oh yeah,
And
totally.
McCrae is about as far from an opera singer as you get, but aside from like death grunts.
But it's about being bored and just, I mean, there's a number
Mhm.
of they talk about this, the thread on this album being like fidelity, but there's a bigger thread about being an artist
Yeah,
and being isolated by your
mhm.
own art and being a prisoner pretty much to
And
it.
I love that the opera singer in the song is very. They make it clear he's very talented and very
Oh
dedicated
yeah,
and very successful, but also kind of an asshole.
yes,
You know,
oh yes.
my talent feeds my darker side, yet no one will complain.
I don't think I'd ever noticed the spooky keyboards that are in this until
The
listen.
keyboards on this album are genius.
But on this particular song, when they lead up to the chorus, there are these really spooky little keyboards. I'm like, oh, that's what lends to the creepiness of this. I'd always wondered why, you felt,
Mhm.
other than his darker side
Yeah,
being
yeah.
fed, that why you get this feeling of unease. And yeah, they're very low in the mix,
Hmm.
but listening to them on this headset,
And there are some great old school monophonic analog synths on this album that they
yeah,
use to great effect. Also, love the walking bass line and of the trumpet parts on the "I Sing in Foreign Lands" and "Emperor of Japan." The trumpet line that follows that is beautifully majestic.
yeah,
Vince DiFiore's trumpet parts just either make it sound really majestic or really jazzy or
yeah.
funky. He's a brilliant player. Um, Another great line. Towards the end, I will sing when you're all dead. I'm immortal,
Yes.
and maybe that's a reference to being on record,
Yeah.
to
Oh
being
yeah,
recorded.
definitely.
You know, my voice will outlive everybody, but himself included. It's the immortality of being a successful artist. You know.
Right. I mean, I know, someone who's an opera singer, in college, and they absolutely love this song
Well, yeah. Who wouldn't love a song about an opera singer, a
because
rock
they're
song
not
or
getting any
pop
love
song?
anywhere else.
Yeah. On to track two. Meanwhile, Rick James. Dot dot dot. Brilliant title. And it's about crashing a celebrity party in the '80s, and the girl who the singer has a crush on ending up sleeping with Rick James.
I, really, is it really that? I mean, I know there's,
The story on its face is about that.
yeah, because I mean, really, you could take it like this girl just ran off with this other guy,
Mhm.
and you know how you kind of give people names
Well,
like that.
but I think it's legit Rick James because he talks about the kidney-shaped fool and looking for the gun. In the
Yeah.
chorus, Fawn Joe and Tootsie are out. There's reference to Fawn Joe and Tootsie. Fawn Hall, Tootsie, Dustin Hoffman. I don't know who Joe
Oh,
is supposed to be. And there's again a lot of vintage synths. I think this was really just set in the '80s. A
okay.
group of friends crash this celebrity party, and the girl the one guy is into ends up sleeping with Rick James.
Well, I mean, the other thing, and if you follow Cake on Facebook, you know about them. They are a very political band. At
Mhm.
least McRae
McCrae is very
is.
political. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
very active in a number of causes.
Uh,
Environment mostly.
and yeah, a lot of this album, like from the opera singer to this to songs later, it is a lot about, like, there is a lot of examination of class.
Mhm.
That Rick James in this situation is a nobleman, who is pretty much taking
Okay, yeah,
the
that's
lower
an
class
all
guy's
right.
girl.
Uh-huh.
But
That is a deep interpretation of it. Is
it,
this from the
it,
band or was this your
it,
interpretation?
this is mine.
Okay,
I think it's
that
pretty.
works.
I
It
mean, I think it's
works.
pretty obvious.
Yeah, yeah. And
I
there's
mean,
Meanwhile, Rick James takes her nude, and there's nothing I can do. Is the chorus.
yeah, yeah. I guess I've got a lot of work to do. I guess it's up to you.
Hmm.
That's the.
And there's a great vulnerability in McCrae's voice.
Oh, right, right. And yeah, when he's singing like the chorus later in the song, it just that
And the lines you just
the
quoted,
sadness, yeah.
there's nothing. I guess there's nothing I can do. I've got a lot of work to do. I guess I'll leave it up to you. There's just this beautiful sadness and vulnerability in his
Right,
voice.
right. I mean, it's definitely a work of genius, or a mark of genius if you can hit like both being something so catchy,
Hmm.
so weird,
And
and so
funny,
deep at
honestly.
the same time. And yes,
And
and if you look at it at another level, it's pretty damn
it's
funny that
very funny and it's very relatable.
Rick James took his girl.
And anyone who's had a crush on someone who was into somebody else
Yeah.
can relate to that. Also loved the background vocals at the end. The last few choruses, they just get very distant sounding,
Oh yeah.
like they're about 5 feet from the mic.
And who the fuck works nude into their chorus?
Exactly. I had to the first time I heard the song, I had to run that back about 5 times to make sure I was hearing it correctly. On to track 3, Shadow Stabbing.
How else would you take her?
Well,
Anyway.
the beginning of Stitches.
Yeah, okay.
Under track 3, Shadow Stabbing. Shadow Stabbing. One case where I have no idea what the song is about. There's some speculation that it's about Hurricane Carter, a boxer who was wrongfully convicted of a murder. I think it might be about a journalist. There's some lines that suggest that.
Oh yeah, I thought it was like writer's block.
Could be. There's a talk about, he moves his words like a prize fighter or something about the mind
Yeah.
inside the cell. And it begins with this interesting guitar sound that comes back on a later song on Commissioning a Symphony and Say, that sounds like it's run through a really tiny speaker, like on a transistor radio.
Well, there's also this little drum machine that sounds like a boxer's footwork.
Oh yeah, there's definitely references to a boxer in the lyrics.
Like the little slipping,
yeah.
sliding sound
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of. Yeah.
And like on most of the album, the bass lyric is just amazing.
Yeah.
Gabriel Nelson sets up some amazing grooves. And there's a couple interesting lines. The man on the street might just as well be.
And
Like,
yeah,
which makes it suggest that it might be about a journalist. Also, somebody's got to say it all. That's what gave me the idea that it might be about a journalist. Speaking of the pre-chorus, nice abrupt change into that, because this is kind of, mid-tempo cake kind of groove, loose, funky kind of thing, and then it just goes into this really driving pre-chorus. And there's not much trumpet, even though it could have worked on those more driving parts.
No, and the chorus, I mean, like the chorus is outside. It's like it's a very tonal shift.
Yeah.
From the rest of the song. It's
right.
I always saw it's kind of a break, like you're inside trying to write something.
Okay, and then outside is this is
the man on the
what's
street
going
might
on.
just as well be, and he just outside.
Okay, I took that line as the man on the street might just as well be on the street, like a homeless person.
It could very well be to that too, right?
And somebody's got to say it all, like somebody who's got to report on this, to expose things. It's lyricgenius.com said in their description, because I went to there to see what they had said about the song, which is where I got the idea about Hurricane Carter. They said, like most of Cake's songs, the lyrics are very much up to interpretation. Although in a lot of cases on this album, they are pretty clear.
Yes.
And moving on to track 4, another one that is very clear. Short skirt, long jacket. I'm glad I have this on my notes in front of me, because I always flip those two when I say it without reading it.
I thought they were blatantly fishing for a single here, though.
Oh, and this one I rarely listened to this one because it got way too overplayed for me.
Really? Because I think I got into this album well after the fact.
I think it was used in a couple of movies or something. This song I know I heard a billion times and I kind of got sick of it. From Wikipedia, The lyrics describe an ideal fantasy woman beginning with the simple desire for a woman in a short skirt and a long jacket, although that is very specific,
Yes.
and go on to become much more elaborate and very specific, as if to tell the story about a particular woman. John McCrae said the song was about prosperity and depression and the strange behavior of the human mating ritual.
I could see that.
To the music, which I always talk about, love how the bass and the guitar play the same line through most of the verse. Sets up a great groove again.
You kind of get this Western kind of guitar thing. Then you get the horns and the sing along, and of course, that's a cake. It's very similar to "Sheep Go to Heaven."
The break after the first chorus is weirdly long. It takes this like 2 or 3 second break, silence.
Yeah.
Love the gang vocals on the second verse, where they just the band just yells the same thing he just sang or he spoke.
Of course.
I think this is the only song on the album that he speaks. He sings the rest of
them. They were obviously going for the typical Cake sound.
Yeah, single. Because they were trying to remake The Distance.
I think "Sheep Go to Heaven" is closer to.
Because
the thing about The Distance had that really crunchy guitar riff.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying he spoke The Distance.
That's true.
And that was the first song that anybody ever heard from them. It was, the big hit.
Well, it's like what we said off air last week. This was a band that we really wanted to not like.
Yeah, exactly. Because I complained about this song getting overplayed. The Distance got horribly overplayed.
Of course. Back in the day, this was a band that we really just did not want to like, and we had no choice but to.
Yeah, because they're just bizarre.
The Distance, we really did not like, but it was good.
Mm-hmm.
But then that cover of "I Will Survive" was just like,
I always liked it.
Yes,
I like that song, and I like to hear creative things done with it.
Because just adding the desolation and his loneliness to that song, just was like, is that what he's doing with his voice? And it kind of just opened the whole thing up.
And we were saying last time, or maybe off air, about how anything they cover, they make better.
Yes.
I was listening to my favorite cover of theirs, War Pigs, which I like more than the Black Sabbath version, I have to admit.
Wow.
And I also listened finally to Phenomena.
Yes.
It's genius.
Genius. That is genius, Phenomena.
And they make things that shouldn't fit or work.
Perhaps.
Yeah. No, they're brilliant cover. The Na 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 section of this song, Back to Short Skirt, Long Jacket, shouldn't work.
No.
But it does. And speaking of oddly specific, at Citibank, we will meet accidentally. Because he's talking about what he wants her stock portfolio to be like.
Of course, yeah.
He has an incredible laundry list for this fantasy woman.
This actually gets my pick for the weakest track of the album, though, honestly.
Okay. I maybe because, like I said, I don't listen to it very often. It was nice to hear it. I don't think it's going to go into heavy rotation, but it was nice to, get reacquainted with it. On to track 5, Commissioning a Symphony in C. This is my favorite on the album.
This could be my favorite Cake song of all time. If not, it's definitely on my list of favorite songs, period, of all time.
And that's an odd choice for me, particularly with this band, because it's one of the most straightforward songs. It's just a straight 4/4, straight ahead rock song.
Is that guitar riff like a ukulele?
At the beginning, it might be a ukulele, or it might just be an affected acoustic.
Okay.
Come to think of it, this is the one Cake song I know how to play, and I can play it on ukulele.
Yeah.
So I'm coming to thinking of that sound, that D minor at the beginning. I think that is a
I think that's what makes it brilliant.
I think that is a ukulele, and it's one of 2 classical music songs on the album.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant. Again, odd subject matter. It is literally about commissioning a symphony in C.
Well, this is art versus money.
Yeah, and again, on the surface, it's this Austrian nobleman commissioning this symphony to maybe give to his nephew. And there are lines toward the end. You are sitting there thinking your thoughts. They are not about what is, but what is not. You are sitting there breathing your breaths. You are seldom breathing life, but mostly death. I think what that means is he's dying.
I well,
It's he's reaching the end of his life, and this symphony was his contribution to the world.
he paid this money to build this opera house or
Mhm.
symphonic hall. He commissioned this symphony out of his own money,
Mhm.
and of course he's expecting a good pat on the back. Everybody like to, hey, great for you to do this. Instead, no one is paying attention to him.
Because they're all enraptured by
They're
the music.
all enraptured by this symphony that he paid for. And of course, a lot of the people in like older times to
Mhm.
go out to those
Well,
things
yeah, because all you had
was
was live
about
music.
being seen.
Yeah, and all you had was live music. So this was
Yeah.
the only time you heard music was in these kind of scenarios. And
Those balconies on the side of the theaters were there for the nobility to be
mhm.
seen by the lower people, but
and
no one gives a fuck
the
about.
other side of the art versus money thing, at this time, again, going back to the classical and possibly Baroque era, symphony,
Yeah.
so classical era,
Yeah.
um, things didn't get written unless somebody commissioned them.
Right.
Composers didn't write for themselves. They were
Right.
paid by people to write music. So, this beautiful symphony that was enrapturing these people is this nobleman's contribution to the world. It wouldn't have happened without him.
But no one's,
Yeah, but he didn't get the press that he deserved.
Right.
But he was thinking about what is not. That's a great interpretation of that line.
And yeah, it's privilege versus creativity,
Mhm.
but it's also catchy as hell.
Oh yeah,
At the
love
same time, while this is going on, this is just
love the old school monophonic synths again.
yeah.
And this one is one of the two songs that has a proper guitar solo.
What's the other one?
And it comes out later. I have it in my notes.
Okay.
Love how it kind of switches sides. Zan McCurdy plays a phrase on the right, then he plays it again on the left, and it goes back and forth. Love
Yeah.
that. There's a great line about victorious known triads. As
Yeah,
a musician, I love that line because
Okay.
I suspect a triad is three notes that are played together. It's usually
All
a
right.
chord, but doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And I think the victorious known triads, I think it's a reference to a major key. This might have been set in the era when minor keys were banned by the church. There was a period of time when minor keys were banned by the church
Oh.
because they sounded dark and evil. So it might have been a reference to major chords sounding victorious, and those are the ones you could use.
That's
I'm not
pretty
sure.
funny. They banned chords.
They banned the key.
Keys.
They banned half of the Western spectrum of music because they just sounded dark and evil.
That's funny.
Yeah, but this is just again very straightforward rock song, but it is we agree the best on the album.
Yeah.
On to track 6, Arco Arena. This is an instrumental, which surprised me from Cake.
Was this your other guitar solo?
This actually no, it's another one. But this has some great acoustic parts from John McCrae.
Who gives a fuck about the Sacramento Kings anyway? I mean,
is that the name?
If we have listeners in the Sacramento area, I apologize. Although you did steal this team from poor Kansas City.
I had no idea what the title was in reference to. Okay, it's the Kings Arena. Okay,
yeah, it's just the stupid basketball arena that.
But McCrae does a great job of showing off that he's actually a really competent guitarist in this song because he plays all the acoustics.
Oh yeah.
Sam McCurdy only plays electric. Everything acoustic is McCrae.
It kind of gives you a little appetizer of the Japanese influence you're about to hear in the next song.
Really just nice and moody and minor. I do have to wonder if the uhs and yas and all of the vocal ejaculations
that Cake always does.
But do they negate it from being an instrumental? Do they keep it from being an instrumental? Because they are clearly there.
An instrumental still.
Rhetorical, humorous question. On to track 7, again, the main course, the title track, Comfort Eagle. This is either about an MML or a cult, kind of the same thing.
How is this not a big single?
That is a good point. There was a video for it. There is religious imagery. I mean, the song starts with the line, "We are building a religion."
Oh yeah.
I think that's why it wasn't a single.
I mean, you're building a brand, you
Building a
know.
brand is about like we said last week. It's about off air. It's about marketing, and it's about the marketing being a new religion.
Oh, exactly. It's society um, using entertainment and comfort
Yeah,
as
yeah.
our religion.
We are now taking callers for defendant keychains.
Pendant keychains, I thought it was.
I heard defendant keychain,
Defendant.
like defenders of the faith.
I thought it was like I just thought it was a shitty like tchotchke, like a pendant keychain.
I'm looking up the lyric now. Um, According to Lyric Genius, it is, oh, they have for these pendant keychains. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm reading more into it than it is. I heard we are now taking callers for defendant keychains, like
No,
keychains for defenders of the faith.
it's just handing out
Oh,
swag,
okay. Okay.
garbage.
Oh,
That's the point of it.
I
It
thought
is just
defendant keychains was much more interesting.
it is the worshipping of trash. You
Mhm.
know, that's exactly what it is.
Another couple of great lines. You can dress up like a sultan in your onion
Onion
head
head
hat.
hat. I do like that line.
Or do you believe in the one true edge by fastening your seatbelts and stepping toward the ledge? Or safety belt, sorry. Putting on a safety belt and stepping toward the ledge. In other words, it's pointless to step toward the ledge and take the step because
Right.
you're in a safety belt, which is the product. Love them again, monosynth. Always got to point that out. Every time I listen to this song, and this is one that's in my heavy rotation, when it gets to the word dude, I have to lip sync it. Even while reviewing, I wasn't like playing airbase or anything. I still had to lip sync dude. And I love when it just goes down to, of course, to just vocals and bass and drums, or vocals and
Yeah.
bass, and then it just builds back slowly back up. And again, speaking of McCrae's voice, he is just ominous on this one.
Oh yeah. He is the cult leader.
And he performs it through a megaphone.
Uh-huh.
I've seen it live a couple of times. And yeah, he goes from really vulnerable and sad and other songs to just evil on this.
Yes.
And it's brilliant. On to track 8, Long Line of Cars. Now, you're more familiar with the band than I am. I love this album, but I need to delve more into their other catalog.
It sounds a lot like You Turn the Screw
Um,
from the album before, Prologuing the Magic.
and you said it's a common theme for McCrae.
Yes. Well, think about it. I mean, stick shifts and safety belts, the distance.
Yeah, well, the distance is more about a relationship than about driving. This
Well,
is directly about being stuck in
it's
traffic.
still, you know, they're
This,
still
it's the car
driving.
is an analogy in the distance.
Same with stick shifts and safety belts. You know, I can't get to my baby because I'm, you know, wearing in this bucket leather seat.
This is really just about being stuck in traffic.
Yes, this is literally just. I mean, well, there's also just that everything we've sacrificed for this crazy lifestyle of just. I mean, especially out there in California.
Yeah, that's car culture.
Just, good God.
And I was reading about their formation. McCrae actually moved from Sacramento to LA to try to make it in the business and failed. And came back to Sacramento, and that's when Cake formed. So it almost feels like a dig at LA.
But
because LA is really where the car culture is.
True, but from what I understand, and I almost moved to Sacramento back in the 90s, but you know, it just didn't look like a good place to go. It's just very, you know, suburban, you know, it's very you got to drive everywhere to do anything.
That's California because it's a gigantic spread out state. You know, we're 2 hours from everything here in Jersey. Which is, you know, you grew up in Jersey, 2 hours from everything. So, you know, it seems like a huge pain in the ass. There's the line in I Can't Drive 55, and yes, I'm a child of the 80s who loved hair metal. It took me 16 hours here to LA. You know, it's a huge state where you got to drive for long periods of time, which would kill me. I would love to live in San Francisco. It seems like a wonderful place, but all of that driving, no. Back to the song. The progression.
At San Francisco, you got to drive at 90-degree angles.
Well, yeah, that's the other reason I wouldn't necessarily want to go to or want to live in San Francisco because those hills.
Insane.
those hills in a wheelchair would not be fun.
I took Ubers out there, and it was just like, yeah, I don't know how you're doing this, but
Back to the song. The
yeah,
progression actually reminds me a lot of Perhaps.
I can see that.
It's got that kind of bossa nova. I don't know if it's bossa nova, but a similar groove and a very similar minor progression. This one isn't in my usual rotation. It's not one of the ones I listen to all the time, but it's become a favorite of mine after hearing it a couple of times for the review.
There's a song on I think Prolonging the Magic called it's called Alpha Beta Parking Lot, which is just I mean it's just a fucking masterpiece.
I get the feeling for this one that he just was in traffic, grabbed it, probably had a micro cassette, and just started coming up with lyrics.
What was the other car song? Oh, it was Land of Race Car Yayas, which is just about driving in traffic too. And just how people on the road are assholes.
He probably spends a lot of time in traffic, probably living in California, most likely does, and gets inspired by it. I love the chaos after the first chorus, where everything just comes in at once, and then it just strips down to vocals and trumpet for the next verse, and the nice twist at the end. This long line of cars is all because of me. Like I'm the asshole at the front of the traffic jam now.
Yeah, I mean, I always wonder, like, was he in an accident, or was he stalled?
See, I took it as
just a slow driver.
He looks behind him and suddenly realizes that he's the asshole in front of the traffic jam. And I love how it just goes out on trumpet and shaker.
Yeah.
The combination again,
I think it's trumpet, the only appearance of the shaker on this album. Actually,
it can't be because they love their oddball percussion. They do. I think it's just the first noticeable one.
The shaker is usually used. I think it's on every album at least once.
Yeah, they love their shaker. On Wikipedia, he's often McCrae is often credited as, and not just Wikipedia, but other places, as playing vibroslap. Which is an instrument that it just kind of sounds like a rattlesnake. It's a handle and a part with an end that has like seeds or something in it, and you just slap it, and it has like a rattlesnake sound. He uses it so much that he's credited periodically with it, not just as percussion, but that specific one. On to track 9, another one of the singles, "Love You Madly." This one is another favorite of mine.
Yeah, I didn't even know this was a single until we reviewed this. I mean, it has all the workings of a good single.
Yeah. My favorite bass line of the album, and I've never called that a favorite bass line until Cake, until Gabe Nelson. And I love the line, "All the dishes rattle in the cupboards when the elephants arrive." It's a love song, but it's a really bizarre love song.
It is, because you kind of get the feeling that the person wants to love them madly, but they're terrified to do so.
They're terrified to do so, and I don't want to sit across the table from you wishing I could run. They don't want to end up in the rut where they hate each other.
Which is why the song ends with the sound effect of somebody getting out of the house.
In a car. I just got that.
And peeling out of there.
I just got that. Wow. I love the sort of radio sound effect on the background vocals.
Yeah.
Or on the chorus, I want to love you madly. I want to love you madly. Love you madly comes in. John McCrae in both parts, but it's just got this radio effect on, small speaker effect. When it just, of course, just goes to bass and percussion, and when the trumpet and guitar come in, it's just, this is everything that's brilliant about Cake.
Yeah.
And it's why it was a single. It's great bass, great use of unusual instruments, great bizarre approach to a very common subject matter.
Yeah.
Which is what McCrae is always about. It's all about. On to track 10, "Pretty Pink Ribbons." Ribbons, singular.
One, I mean, have you been able to figure this one out lyrically?
No, and this is probably the most straightforward song, and my pick for the weakest. Which for Cake, even the weakest is pretty good. You always hear that line about pizza, or bad pizza is still pretty good. Absolutely not true. There is categorically bad pizza. OCC had categorically bad pizza. But that applies to Cake.
Cornbread crust.
Yeah, that applies to Cake. Even a bad Cake song is pretty good. And I love the flanger on the guitar. I have no idea what the song is about.
Right.
I
Is
love
the
the.
pink ribbon in reference to cancer?
Oh, I have no idea. Without
Is it
this,
just the gender,
I think it might
differences?
be gender because it's kind of suggested that without the pretty pink ribbon, this person would become some kind of dark god. You'd lift the steaming herd and kill all the sick ones.
I mean,
But then
is it?
again, there's also the line without the sticky little kitten, your ticket could never be free. Without
Yeah.
the sticky little kitten. And yes, I've checked that line.
Oh wow. There's only one thing a sticky little kitten could be.
Oh, how the fuck did I not connect that?
So,
It is about gender, okay.
but I mean, is it
Which is pretty
just
obvious from Pretty Pink Ribbon.
is it a shallow, male narrator that just believes this person is would be just as shallow as he is
You'd be
without,
just like me, yeah. Or
yeah,
possibly without all of the without being held back by all of the assumptions of society and the sexism.
right. So
Maybe
it
the pink ribbon does represent, all of those presumptions and the sexism and misogyny, all of that.
like I think I'm on to like most of the other songs, but this one is the mystery wrapped in an enigma,
I get all of
wrapped in
them.
a conundrum.
I get all of them except for this and
Yeah,
shadow stabbing. Um, and this one, even though it's my pick for weakest, is the one that ended up stuck in my head after I finished reviewing the album.
yeah.
It's by far the catchiest. On to finally track 11, World of Two, another favorite of mine. I love the way it kind of comes
It's a
in like a
weird one.
Motown. Say again?
It's a weird one.
I love how it kind of comes in like a Motown song. You've got this muted,
Oh yeah,
Carol K kind of bass line, and this beautiful off-kilter groove in six with some great acoustic, this great acoustic part that just kind of pedal tones throughout the song.
it almost feels like a waltz.
Sort of beautifully syncopated bass. The bass kind of plays against the vocals. Everything's in six, but it's all kind of syncopated.
It's so dreamlike.
And the lyrics remind me of a few people. It's talking about this person who is alone in their world of two.
Oh, I hadn't really paid attention to the lyrics on this one because it's so short.
I have the whole bridge quoted. It's not that I don't like you. It's not that I don't love you. It's not that I don't think that you are two of the most perfectly beautiful people in your world of two.
Oh, so it's
Not exactly, multiple personalities, but someone who has two very
okay.
distinctive sides and is, in a world of their own and just self-centered. And,
Okay.
I can think of a few people. A nice long fade. The fade on this song
Yeah.
is nearly a minute.
Yeah, the fade lasts almost the majority of the song. I think it's only a couple minutes, right?
The fade is just shy of a minute. And I love the drum stutter at the end. I've said before that I don't usually, when I'm listening for fun, I don't typically listen to the entire song. Once it gets to a repeated chorus at the end, I cash out because I know what's coming. I get bored. When I'm reviewing, I listen to the whole song, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad I did because I caught that little drum stutter at the end that makes the song. So again, like I said, this week was a softball, picking something that we both would love. So obviously,
Do you recommend it?
we both recommend it.
Yes.
I felt really satisfied after listening to the album,
I
I know is a weird thing to say, but normally when I review, when I finish, I want to keep listening to music. And I'm often tempted to keep listening to the same artist, but I resist that because I don't want it to cloud things. This time I finished the album and I was good.
I recommend this, but I think I still prefer Prolonging the Magic
Yeah, we
better.
can certainly quibble about, their favorite album. But it's just a great combination of uniqueness but diversity. That's just
Yeah.
it's I'm gonna say now it's my 12th Desert Island disc.
Oh wow.
Standing Stones is still my favorite of this year, but this is a close second.
When are they it sounds like they're coming out with a new album though,
They
isn't it?
have a new single on Spotify. Another one I was just listening to before we got started tonight.
Yeah.
Called "Sinking Ship." It's pretty good. It's another straightforward rock song, which is not Cake's strong suit. As
Are you
much as I love
familiar
commissioning,
with like Showroom of Compassion,
I
which
no, I need to delve into their other songs. I know
yeah.
the single is beyond this album mostly. Um, So I need to dig into their catalog. But Sinking Ship, it's good, but it's another straightforward rock song. I like things
Yeah.
that are a little more interesting and complicated from them. Commissioning aside, like I said, it's my favorite. So that's the exception to the rule. And that is it for Comfort Eagle. We'll be taking next week off to bank more Lane episodes. But
I gotta get started on that.
yeah, we might release them 4 at a time in one video now. But we'll be back in 2 weeks with our review of The Phosphorescent Blues by Punch Brothers. Until then, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you
There
are.
you are.